Then we'll move on to Nintendo. And to the shock of a lot of you guys, I think Nintendo had a decent Nintendo Direct during E3. Their one in May was just a laughing stock, and I poked fun at that. And if you got butt hurt over that, that's not my problem. I was just messing around with stuff because deep down, I still like Nintendo. Um, I just well, the thing is I'll always like Nintendo. Nintendo is the reason I'm a gamer today. They're the ones who brought the entire industry up from the ashes after the video game crash in 1983, and they made video games a thing again. And I grew up with the NES. I remember getting my first Nintendo, and this is probably going to show my age here, but I got my first Nintendo when I was 5 years old in 1988 for my birthday. I got the Super Nintendo right when it came out. I even got the Nintendo 64 complete with the Toys R Us Gold Edition controller, if you guys remember that. I loved all three of those systems. I remember one fateful night when I slept over at my brother's house because my brother, who got me into role-playing games, he bought a Sega Genesis. And I remember sitting there in the middle of the night with the glow of the TV on me playing Sonic the Hedgehog for the first time. And I thought, wow, Nintendo's actually got some competition now. And I always had the Nintendo stuff, so whenever my brother wanted to play a Nintendo game, he just borrowed something of mine. He got the non-Nintendo stuff. Like he got a Genesis, he got a Sega CD. He handed those down to me when he got a PlayStation. And then I think at that point he really wanted to play Zelda, so he bought his own Nintendo 64 and handed the PlayStation down to me. So that's how I got introduced to PlayStation and Sega games. But after that, like when I bought a GameCube, like something changed. Like I don't know if something internally changed at Nintendo or what went on, but I got the GameCube and that thing was just, I just didn't care for the GameCube. Like I gave it a chance. I tried to play Wind Waker and Super Mario Sunshine, but just something off about it. You know what I mean? It got plenty of use with Super Smash Bros. Melee. That by far was the most played game on it. Like I remember the good old days when I would go over to my friend's house and 3 or 4 of us would get together and we would literally play Super Smash Bros. For almost like 10 hours straight. Like it was really, really fun. That's where the GameCube shined. But it gave way to what we see now. Like that's really where the Wii and the Wii U shines, is when you have 4 players over for local multiplayer. I'll give Nintendo this. They're the kings, not only at portable devices, like their 3DS is great, but they're great with local multiplayer. No one can touch them in local multiplayer. If you got 4 friends together and you want to, get weird and, play a fun game or whatever, like bring out the Wii. Let's do something fun with it. You know what I mean? That's where Nintendo shines. I'll give them props for that. But in my opinion, I just think that Nintendo's biggest weakness still by far is their third-party support. That's what made the NES, the SNES, and the 64 great. Can you imagine if the NES didn't have games by Capcom, games by Konami, games by other third-party parties, you know what I mean? If they didn't have, on the Super Nintendo, if they didn't have Square, if they didn't have companies like Atlas, or again, Konami and Capcom, or even the 64. Can you imagine the Nintendo 64 without Rare? The system would pretty much be shit. I mean, let's be honest here. But if they didn't have all those third-party titles on the NES, SNES, and N64, then what would be the best games on the console? Answer is easy. First-party titles. That's really the only good games that were on the Wii. That's really the only good games that are on the Wii U. You know what I mean? Like, I honestly think Nintendo reminds me of that rock star who had it all in the 80s and the early 90s. Like, he had the women, he had the cars, he had everything, but then, he made bad decisions financially. He bought like a big MC Hammer size mansion and went bankrupt, and he just made wrong turn after wrong turn after wrong turn. And now he's trying to make a comeback, but He's faded into obscurity, and really the only thing people remember about him is like the one or two songs that made him popular in the first place that he's clinging onto right now. And in Nintendo's case, that's Mario and Zelda. Mario and Zelda, Mario and Zelda, Mario and Zelda. Oh, I'm so excited to see what Nintendo has to reveal now. Oh, another Mario. Oh, another Zelda. You'll be lucky if it's a new Zelda. We've been getting Zelda re-releases. Like how many times can you people play Ocarina of Time? It's a good game. Don't get me wrong. It's a great game. I'll even give you, but I'm not buying it like 4 or 5 times. Same with the Mario games. Like that whole fiasco that happened with the 25th 25-year anniversary Mario All Stars collection for the Wii. Like even Mario's guilty of getting re-releases too. And all they fucking did was they put a Super Mario All Stars ROM on the disc. And I know that because if you look closely when you're selecting which Mario game to play, it still has the Super Nintendo button prompts on it. Like how lazy can you get? Now that thing was the definition of a cash grab. But the point is I was trying to get to before is that I honestly think Nintendo is at the point where they should really pull a Sega. They should just focus on their first party software. With the exception, of course, being the 3DS. They would be absolute morons to pull out of the handheld race where they have absolutely no competition. Sega tried to dethrone them with the Game Gear back in the day in the 90s, and it would have succeeded if you didn't have to put 6 new batteries in the fucking Game Gear every 5 minutes. And then the PSP came along and the PlayStation Vita is here, and we all know how good those are doing. I think the PSP had a shot, but it was still a distant second to the DS. I mean, I'll be the first to admit that. So I'm not a Nintendo hater by any means. I just think they need to radically change their strategy. And it was kind of sad not to have them have a conference this year so I can poke fun at them some more because last year's was a fucking disaster. Um, uh, but I kind of appreciated the Nintendo Direct videos this year. Um, they were straight to the point, and I'll get to that right now. But I think, yeah, I think if Nintendo they're clearly not competing with the PS4 and the Xbox One anymore. They're not competing with Microsoft and Sony in the graphics department. They're off kind of doing their own thing now. And I really think that there's really no need for a home Nintendo console anymore if they keep going in this direction. So that maybe they should just make things easier on themselves. They would save money and it would make things easier for consumers because now they just have to choose between an Xbox or a PlayStation, and they could play Mario and Zelda and Pokemon and Wii Party or whatever the fuck else on those systems. That's just my opinion.